Hey, hello, folks, and welcome to another episode of Do Not Flush. It is the sixth episode. Today we have Tony with us, and he's going to be talking about a very interesting topic. I don't know about you guys. I know the media has been talking and saying that the job market is going great. In my opinion, it's a bunch of bullshit. Excuse the language. It's crazy what's happening right now. It is a combination, in my opinion, of disruption by AI, and the fact that I think that experience is no longer what does not care the way it has in the past, because of again the AI and in my opinion, ageism in corporate America. One of the things that we want to kind of talk about here today, and I think Tony has an extensive background, and he can kind of go into that and explain where he's coming from and why it is what it is. And for the folks joining Do Not Flush for the first time, we've tried to kind of touch on some of the hot topics that are taken or being, discussed or not discussed, but should be discussed in the workplace, primarily around AI and how things can impact our careers and what things we can do to improve. So Tony, if you don't mind, can you give us a quick intro, background on yourself, and why we should be listening to you today?
Yeah, well, I don't know if anybody should be listening to me, but my background is 20 plus years in corporate environments, C suite roles. Built a couple of startups, one out in Silicon Valley, another one based out of Minneapolis. We sold that one in 2020. So my career has been a blend of working in corporate media settings, think Chicago Tribune, LA Times, think Fox Television, but always on the technology side of things, always, launching a digital division or building a new product within those environments. So I guess I would say I've always been a startup minded person, even when I'm in those corporate environments. But I did about a little over 5 months ago decide to go out on my own. Found my own company, Performance Labs, and that was a function of what we're going to talk about today, which is it's not easy to get a job anymore. More layoffs are happening. And there's a lot of people out there, to your points, that are on the market. I think 20,000 tech jobs in the last month or something crazy like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think was it last, I want to say last week, it could be Thursday or Friday, we had announced, or we heard the announcement of like 4,000 got laid off from Meta, 8,000 from Chevron, and 1,000 from Jeff Bezos' space company. I forgot the name. But I mean, we're not talking about just, average, skill set here. We're talking very skilled folks, and now we're even seeing the level of layouts all happen on the federal government, though it's probably for different reasons there. Though, like, is our employers feeling empowered to do this because of AI? Is one of my hunches. Although, again, it's thus far I've seen nothing but great news about how the job market is going. But again, I don't believe it to be true. I feel like the AI disruption is here.
Yeah. I think it's in my humble opinion, I think it's a combination of things. I do think that there's a forward look by many organizations around how AI will impact their businesses. That being said, I have not seen a company yet in all of my interactions with organizations of all sizes, where they have a fully operationalized AI strategy. And then you think the bigger companies like an Oracle, for example, sure, they might have a division and millions of dollars pumped into it, but I don't believe for a minute that even a company of that size is looking at 10,000 global employees, mapping each one of them, then understanding which of them can be replaced by AI, because I've not seen a fully operational company that is truly using AI effectively.
So what's happening here? Are they just simply saying, "Hey, we think AI is gonna come and help replace some folks, and let's just start out by, breaking everything down and seeing what breaks and where we need to patch things up, and then kind of as the things break, we see if we can apply AI there, of kind of without any strategy." Is that what's happening in your opinion?
I think it all starts with the trend that we've seen for how many years now, which is corporate bodies eking out more shareholder value. In an organization, you have two levers: expenses and revenue. That's it, right? And I think what makes this most recent, especially Meta layoffs, interesting is that used to just be downsizing. We didn't hit our numbers this quarter. As a result, the organization is impacted. But with Meta, it was a pretty forceful ousting that was predicated on employee performance. That's something that we haven't seen at mass scale like that, I think, ever in our history. So I do think it's one part shareholder value perpetually needing to go up, right? It can never go down. Uh, and I also think it's a function of the anticipation of AI. Um, but I think it's standard cost cutting measures more than anything that's driving this now. And employers are becoming just emboldened when it comes to firing teams and mass layoffs, whether it's, the Zoom call with 50 people on it, or it's a mass email saying, you're not good at your job, you don't work here anymore.
But I've seen folks come in and say, "Hey, listen, we're not low performers, and we have the background to prove it." And we come in and we just recently had this accolade awarded or that. I like I saw a lot of folks on LinkedIn come out and just say that no, this is not true. We're not low performers. So and also the scale of we're seeing last, I mean, just not this year, but last 2 years, I would say, has been insane. Tens of thousands of employees have been laid off, and it doesn't look like jobs are coming back. I
Yeah.
think most of the job reports that they say are coming back, or the job market is hot, really is probably pertaining to blue collar, not white collar knowledge workers, which
Mm,
kind of makes me think that that's is why it's in one way, shape, or form. It could be AI that's behind this unique amount of people being laid off, and the real fact that the hiring has not kicked back in for the
mhm,
last 2 3 years. The layoffs could be part of just a normal day to day,
yeah.
and it was just it's a cycle. While in my opinion, this is if it is a cycle, it's not it's never it has never been this big. One and two, I think if this is the dip has taken longer than before in the past to come back up, and in my opinion, given where the billions of dollars are being invested in AI from from on a private level and a government level globally, it makes me feel like this is not. This dip is not going to come back up, and if it does come back up, it's not going to go back to where it was before, and I'm just trying to figure out what the future is gonna look like in the workplace.
But I'm a Gen Xer born in 75, and the trend that I'm also seeing is this move to, flattening the organization, and removing that middle layer, right? We're expensive employees. The boomer executives that are still in power in controlling positions, um, they're viewed as necessary because they're the ones that, of course, are communicating with the board of directors, telling them how great everything is going. So this is one opinion that I have, but I'd mentioned earlier kind of that middle layer, still very expensive. But when you think about the implications of AI in the workforce, we know that AI is great at process, at computing, at synthesizing, but what it still lacks is intuition. It lacks creativity. It lacks emotional intelligence. But if you look at a GPT model, for example, it said that the IQ of GPT is 155, with Einstein having an IQ of 160. So if you take that input that machine and you apply with a lower raced employee, call it 5 or 10 years of experience versus 20 plus, you've got that EQ, you've got that intuition,
Mm.
you've got that creativity, and now you have Einstein in your corner, allowing you to tell it how you need to see outputs coming your way.
So basically, anyone with more than 10 years of experience is no, their experience is irrelevant, and in a way, it's obsolete. Would you agree? Because
Wouldn't
they
to
c
I wouldn't agree, but I think that's how it is being viewed
okay.
in many cases. You know, the thing that AI is, not going to be able to do is think about projects like rebranding a company. Think about projects like identifying your next solution that you're going to build, your next product. Those are things that are gonna require human intervention, but I do think that corporations, some of these that are massively downsizing, they are gonna find themselves in a spot where they have talent gaps. You can't fire 4,000 employees and expect the rest of the team to just take on the work that they were doing.
Well, I think what they're expecting is, at least again, this is all just an opinion, and my opinion is that they look at it and say, if we look at your experience, the last, you know, if you come in, you're a candidate for a job, you have 25 to 30 years of experience. They're gonna look and say, well, the first 20 years of experience are irrelevant. They're obsolete at this point in time. I just need maybe the last 5 or 10 years of experience, and then the rest can be augmented with AI, and that AI will come in with the latest and greatest in kind of knowledge or techniques, and then you come in and just simply patch the what's missing from the AI's inability to understand EQ for now, and then that's it. So basically, in my opinion, look, the best on the market is somebody that has 5 to 10 years of experience, understands how to use AI, and then you are at the top of your game. Beyond that, it's just they're gonna just see you as additional cost for experience that really either they think is not needed, or it might also not be needed. I mean, depending on the profession. And we know, especially in tech, tech progresses every 3 to 5 years. You have a whole new cycle of tech. So if you come into me and say, "Hey, listen, I can work on, servers that were hot, let's say maybe some old mainframes or mid range servers from IBM, although I know some of them are still in existence and in use." Um, they the level of skills, their knowledge, the experience they've gained 20, 10 years ago might not be relevant today.
The skills themselves might not be, and if you didn't stay ahead of what was coming next, um, you know, you might have challenges, but in those 20 years, think of what a human has learned. It's not just that IBM mainframe, it's how to structure an organization to operationalize around a mainframe server. It's the organization of integration of new technology into those organizations. I don't believe that companies aren't interested in someone with 20 years of talent. I just don't think they like the burden that comes with it, which is hiring and insuring a 55, a 50, a 60-year-old, paying them a high salary. They want the experience of that person and they know that it's valuable, but I don't believe when it comes at the cost that it does, they see it as valuable. And I know we're going to get to this in a bit, but I think that's where the opportunity lies around fractional solopreneurship, right? 5 companies might want a fifth of my brain because it's very valuable to them, but they might not wanna hire me because I am too old, or I'm gonna be retiring in 5 years, or I'm expensive to insure. Those I think are the hesitations less than, "We don't need 25 years because a 10-year and AI can fix it." It's, "We don't want the baggage that comes with that 20 or 25 years of experience.
Should you then flush your age? Age is no longer a good thing. Is no longer correlated with having having extra level years of experience is no longer being perceived as somebody that is very knowledgeable. I feel like now it's a whole paradigm shift, like nothing we've ever seen before. Like,
Think of someone with 10 years of experience using AI to solve a problem versus someone with 20 years of experience solving a problem. No different than a mechanical engineer using AI to solve a problem. I can't put in the inputs that that human needs to put in order to derive the ideal output. So that experience, even when it comes to using AI, I think is highly, highly valuable. Again, maybe not at the cost that they want to pay. You think of prompting an AI to generate anything, whether it's an automation, whether it's a proposal, whatever it is. My 20 years of experience allows me to prompt more effectively to derive the right output than a 10-year or 5-year veteran does. Sure, they know how to use the tools. I'm not a photographer. So when I go to a Discord, for example, I see someone that's putting in aperture settings and it's shot on this type of camera in this light. I could never write that prompt because I don't know enough about photography to
got
do
you.
that.
But which again kind of goes back to what I was suggesting is that if you have the 5 to 10 years of experience, you'd know enough to be able to enter those prompts. Anything beyond that, again, in my opinion, will probably render render those years of experience obsolete. And given your age, most likely employers will probably avoid hiring you because of what you put it, that extra quote unquote baggage of, like, higher cost of health insurance, likely more likely to encounter maybe health issues that will cause them to be miss work. So what do you think is next, Tony? How would you what would you recommend and for a potential somebody that's just got laid off? What would you recommend they do in this marketplace?
Right now, I would absolutely say, and you and I have been talking a lot about this, you need to understand AI, even if it's at its most basic level. What tools do you use for what tasks? I would encourage anybody that is looking for work right now to spend hours a day researching, checking out new tools, because those skills are going to be necessary however you apply them. Your brain plus AI is the same thing, whether you're reapplying it to the company that you get hired at 6 months from now, or whether you go out on your own and leverage those tools. But I see a lot of people with their heads in the sand. They don't know where to get started. And, when you think about AI, and I liken it to back in the newspaper days, right? Search didn't disrupt the industry per se. The modality shifted. It wasn't a one for one. It wasn't newspapers are being replaced by this thing. It was that the newspapers were complaining about how it's replacing the thing when the entire modality shifted. So it's not about the website disrupting newspapers. It's about the newspapers not understanding the nuances of that shift that occurred and start leaning forward. They spent 10 years with their heads in the sand. And I see executives all the time that are coming to me saying, I don't even know where to get started. I don't use any tools. I've used the free version of GPT for copywriting and basic functions. So that would be my advice is understand that the modality shifted, understand that you have to adapt your skill set to adjust for that modality change. But this isn't looking in the past saying AI is replacing our jobs. If they are, it's too damn late. Get on board and start to educate yourself.
So would you think, is it plausible for somebody to say, depending maybe on where they are in their career, to go ahead and say, I want to learn AI, learn to develop it? Is that something that you think is people going to be capable of doing that? Or would you say they're more likely to have more success if they learn how to apply AI instead of develop AI, which is kind of
Yeah.
where I am.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be the first to admit that I'm not an AI bro, right? I see some of these folks that are on TikTok that are 20 years old that are building insane automations that my brain couldn't comprehend. But again, going back to that age conversation, I think anybody who's in a position in learning AI in an advanced position or time in their career, it's not about becoming an AI bro. It's about knowing how to operationalize AI within an organization, human dynamics, behavior change, people not wanting to adopt a new process. Those are the real challenges behind AI adoption within an organization is that human behavior change. It's no different than bringing in a new huge software. It takes months of training, and Bill, who's been doing this for 50 years, doesn't want to learn the new thing. My way is working, right? That human behavior change is what's hard. So, anybody who's worked in an organization finding themselves out of work but have 20 years of experience, it's not about being able to go into the organization and build hyper complex coding environments using AI tools like Bolt. It's be dangerous enough to know how it all works, how it all interconnects, what are the platforms, how do you prompt specific LLMs for the right output, and less about learning every single intricacy and knowing how to build those systems.
What's your vision? How do you what do you bring in? Are you the one bringing in um, technical knowledge, or are you bringing in business acumen applied with your knowledge of AI tools, or are you bringing the vision to basically say, "Hey, here's this is the art of the possible. This
Yep.
is what we can do, and let me show you how we can do it."
A bit of a mixed bag, but I would say more on the latter, which is they need guidance. They need someone with career history to help them understand how it integrates. We're doing some lightweight automation for a couple of companies. I've built a pre-trained large language model, which is helping me to facilitate where are the areas of need within an organization. I do want to just quickly go back to what we had mentioned just a bit earlier, and the importance of understanding the whole environment versus how to use every single tool. When you think of a Zapier, Zapier is a highly complex tool, one that I struggle to figure out exactly how to interconnect everything. But then comes along Mind Studio, a natural language processing platform that builds automations for you, right? As we continue to advance, these tools are going to become easier to use. And if you don't understand how to use them, why to use them, and where they fit into your organization, that's where you're going to fall down. All of this stuff is just going to exponentially get easier over time for common users to build an app with a prompt or two.
You think we'll ever get to a day where, you just go in with one tool and say, "Hey, listen, I have this business problem. I need to be able to figure out what my clients are, figure out what the pain points are, figure out then how to solve their pain points and how to structure, position my solutions and address the market." Do you think it's just like, here's this is what I'm really good at doing or making or building or the service I can provide? And it'll just do everything for you, puts it all out, and you're done? Do you think we'll get to that stage?
I mean, you're talking about artificial general intelligence at that point, right? Which
Yeah.
that who knows how fast it's going to get there, but you get to a place of singularity where machines are smarter than humans, can critically think, can show emotional intelligence. I mean, every prompt you're putting into ChatGPT, every prompt I'm putting in is further training the database, right? And when you use context that could help it understand what emotional intelligence is, in my point of view, that's when it can get really scary for a worker because you can see a world where we're not necessary. if it can hit that point of singularity, right?
Yeah, maybe then, yeah, well, yeah, I agree with you there. I think that coupled with robotics, advancements in robotics,
Mhm.
and they can even service the servers they exist on, right? And
Yeah.
so it's a scary world.
I think, autonomous bots, in my mind, that's the point where it gets interesting because that knowledge applied to, I mentioned this to you earlier, right? I was at the optometrist a couple of weeks ago. I walked in. What did I do? I spoke to a human. That human handed me a form on a clipboard. I sat down on the couch. I filled it out. I handed it back to the human. That human then handed that to another human who had me go through some pretty routine questions about my eyes, right? And there's a world where that whole process is unnecessary and highly automatable. There could have been a computer screen answer these questions. It could have voice prompted me. It could have referenced my previous charts and said, here's the degradation over time, or you answered this way 2 years ago, you answered this way 2 years later. Uh, those types of tasks that really don't have a lot of critical thinking behind them, I'm worried if I'm in that position.
Hmm. Interesting. And I mean, I think what would you say the industries that will probably be the least to be disrupted, or least likely to be disrupted, or the last to be disrupted by AI? You know,
Yeah, I think it's, yeah, any, jobs that require those 3 things: creativity, emotional intelligence, and intuition, and I think intuition is almost the more important one. I think creativity is something that's concerning, for a marketing team to put together an ad campaign at the push of a button based on previous ad campaigns, performance, what resonates, what doesn't. That intuition is really, I think, at this moment in time, plus emotional intelligence is you still have to understand your customer's behavior, right? A computer can't do that yet. It requires input, context, tone, right? There's things that aren't computed yet by an AI, a large language model.
yeah, yeah. I think, in my opinion, the industries or the professions that where the human touch is highly preferred or desired, maybe like a nurse or a doctor when you're sick. I think by your bedside. I think you'd want, no matter how advanced AI is, I think you maybe they can be in the background, but you still would want the human there. I think that might be one of the professions. And I also want to think of things in more of a utopian versus dystopian approach where hopefully things get to a point where we have the ability to have what I forgot the name of, I think he was inventor by the name of Jack. He was born early last century. I forgot his last name, but he talked about a resource-based economy, and where basically it's based on being able to exchange resources and goods versus having just kind of be like you work and you save money, then money going and you buy, and then from that point on, everybody, because of the level of automation and technology, then we're able to just pursue our passions. Like if you want to be an artist, you can be, whatever you need in the world is there. So think of it like if AI and robotics get so advanced that we are able to bring the cost of things down to such a low point that all we really need is raw material, and every country has its share, and based on that we're able to exchange it, then everybody in the world, in theory, again, this is a utopian approach,
Right.
where we are able to just pursue our dreams and passions. So if I want to be a musician or an artist, I can just go out and do that, and I don't have to worry about you know the day to day hustle of work.
That sounds lovely. However, the entire philosophy behind capitalism is that as competition rises, price comes down. Those prices are passed on to the consumer. At some point, it should bottom out, theoretically speaking. But that's not what we've seen, and why? It's because of the humans that are buying $400 million yachts and have 2 of them. So that capitalism has always gone up since, trickle down economics was introduced. We haven't seen prices go down. We've seen inflation go up. So unfortunately, I don't see a world where the powers that be say, you know what, Michael, this is all automated. Go play your guitar and enjoy your life. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon.
Keep an eye out and see what happens, and hopefully things do turn out to be better. I think, you know, and I try to be an optimist. Sometimes I look at, if you look things at a graph, you see ups and downs, but if you zoom back far enough to like the history of beginning of mankind, we've been kind of going in a positive trajectory. I really hoped that we continue to do so. Did we miss anything here? Is there anything else you think we should touch on?
Let's talk a little bit about decentralized workforce. So
Yes.
I I went out on my own a little over 5 months ago. Function of standard reason why anybody's looking right now. Thankfully, I was in a position where I knew that I wanted to go out on my own. I wanted to build my own business. There's a lot of people that are not comfortable with that. It's not an easy leap to take, but I mean, you look at Gen Z, 50% of them are aspiring to be their own bosses. Why? Because they're from a generation that does not conform with today's work standard being pushed down by a boomer in the C-suite, right? They're lazy. They don't want to work. And that's why and they recognize that if they go to the workforce, they can't afford a house still. They, they go to college and they have student loans, right? So I think that's why you're seeing that trend. As mentioned earlier, companies do want your 20 or 25 years of experience, but maybe not in a full-time capacity. And
Uh,
Sam Altman mentioned this thinking, which I makes a lot of sense to me, and that's this decentralized workforce thinking, right? You could imagine a world where a CEO is rebranding the company, but they pared down their marketing department to 2 people to eke up more shareholder value. You could imagine a world where you're defining the scope of the project, what you want it to do, what the output is, what you need, firmographics, demographics, previous, whatever it is, right? And you could imagine a connected world where I'm sitting in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, you're sitting in Raleigh, we've got a team over in India that are all connected by way of a platform to solve that challenge, but in a decentralized way where your expertise is not what I have. That's why we're connected. Our skill sets paired up correctly with the requirements of that task that needed to be done. So today, being an entrepreneur, solopreneur, it requires you to go out and find new business and identify your next customer, the standard feast or famine consulting cycle, right? But you could imagine a world where you wake up in the morning and you have 2 emails in your inbox describing projects that are being presented to you for a team of 5, and you accept it or decline it. If you accept it, you have a job for the next 6 months working on that project. If you decline it, you go play the guitar at the coffee shop.
This is beautiful. So, do you see? I have several questions here. Do you think this is a scalable model? One and two. Do you believe that is it possible to have such a decentralized workforce as the future, as kind of the next evolution of the corporate world, where you are, you have a very unique, kind of maybe esoteric skill set that you can apply to specific projects, and then companies can come in and bring you on board just for those projects. How would these companies be able to find you, you think? How would they be able to make sure that you're the right person and for the job? I feel like this kind of this when it gets to the large scale, I think they're just gonna revert to, hey, listen, let's just let's hire the back people so
Mhm.
we know them, we have their background, we know their capabilities, versus having to do the vetting all over again with every new project hire.
Well, I think AI is gonna solve that, right? I mean, this exists already in Fiverr. I wanna build a website, I go to Fiverr, I find someone anywhere in the world. I'm evaluating them on their portfolio. I'm evaluating them on their star rating, the number of reviews that they've had from happy or disgruntled customers. And I think quantum computing and AI will just help facilitate those connections faster for an organization if that decentralized workforce thinking goes, right? You're gonna get that email, and you're not gonna have a conversation with that person, but all of your criteria fit the desired outline of the project. They may be, determined that they only wanna work with five-star workers, or they only wanna work
Mm.
with whatever that is, but you're building a virtual team to solve a very specific project or problem, just sourcing the world for the leading talent, connecting that talent, and having that project completed with maybe no interaction with that team ever.
Interesting. And what would you say to folks that say, this is too big of a step? Maybe this is too extreme. Let's just wait it out. See, wait for the market to come back. What would you say to them? And what would you say to the ones that say, "Sure, I'll go ahead and do this, but I have no idea how to get clients."
Yeah. Um, the the it's kind of funny. I posted on LinkedIn a comment to a post about the job market, and I was very real about it. I mean, I've talked to dozens of people in the last couple of weeks that have found themselves in this position, and a woman commented on it in a bit of a snarky way, and at the end, she said, "I fear for your karma," meaning what I was putting out there is not something that she liked. And
Wow.
I replied to it and I said, these are facts, right? So I would say number one, if you're out of work and you're an executive or you're 20 plus years of experience, it's hard out there. I talk with highly talented people every day. Some of them have been on the market for 18 months. Some of them have gone through 20 plus interviews, had to do projects as part of the interview process. So I think my advice would be you need to commit to it, right? You can't just say, I'm going to start Bill Smith's consulting practice, stand up a website, post it on LinkedIn, everybody comments and likes and yay, proud of you. And then 2 months later, they're posting that they took a job with another company. You can look for side work, of course, while you're looking. However, you need to commit to it because you're going to be spending a lot of time interviewing at this moment. You're hearing of job applicants in the thousands for one job. They're gonna choose 30 to even contact. They're gonna choose 5 to interview. Your odds aren't very good, and a lot of talented people out there that are looking and have been for quite some time. So, it's scary to take the leap. You and I have talked about this
Yeah.
a lot. There's insurance, right? We have a for-profit healthcare system, so if we were in Europe, it'd be a lot easier to say, "I'm gonna go do my own thing because my healthcare is paid for." And for me, that's a $2,000 plus expense for my family every single month, which is a lot of money. And caveat, but of course, for subpar healthcare as well. Uh, um, but that's a scary component to this. The steady paycheck, it feels good, right? The corporate construct exists for a reason. They pay you just enough and attach the insurance carrot to it as well, that it's a lot easier to just go work for a company because it's gonna be harder to do it on your own. But what if it's harder to find a job on your own than it is to start your own company, pay for insurance, and create your own steady paycheck?
Agreed, and I too have been kind of speak with some of my friends and some alums from my B school, and I can tell you, I have some folks that have highly they're highly skilled folks with amazing credentials, with like undergrad from Harvard or MIT, grad school from Duke, and then you have them. They're veterans. Some of them have 20 years plus experience, and they have experience in. They can prove they've worked well under pressure. They can prove they've bring in critical thinking, and they're able to accomplish a lot. And yet they've, like you mentioned, like a year, 2 3 years, with some that have been with that job, and you see they've applied to 1,000 plus job applications with no bites, and then you start hearing of like a lot of fake job postings, where it's just they're just really unreal, just collecting data. Then you hear of folks that it's like I agree with you. You cannot keep doing the same thing expecting different results. That's the very definition of insanity. Um, and I think at the very least how I would deduce things is like no matter what you want to do, you definitely want to go back and learn as much as you can about AI, because one way shape or form that's going to be part of your future. Having the ability to go out and market yourself, and being whether it is just now you still trying to land a job at a company, or you're trying to get your business up and running, is something that you definitely want to do. And having, when you're pressed to succeed in such an environment, and to be on your own and be able to do things with as little cost as possible, I think that's the best catalyst to be figure out which AI tools are the best. And I know, like when I started my own practice, I had to get a lot of things done with as little people as possible. In most cases, it was just me. Sometimes I bring in contractors for one project or another, and this helped me to quickly learn the power of AI and how to apply it
Yeah,
in the right place.
yeah.
And I think that, like you mentioned, it requires you to be committed to what you do. It requires you to think outside the box and to be open to learning. And I think right now, with the market being flooded with thousands of more highly skilled folks, the earlier one recognizes this, the better.
Yeah, and I think you hit on something too that's important to point out for anybody that is looking to go out on their own is it was a lot harder 10 years ago. It's a lot easier than it's ever been. You've got QuickBooks to handle your taxes and your expenses and all of those things. You've got AI to help you write proposals. You've got AI to help reply to emails, create contracts, vet contracts. These are all things that even 10 years ago would have required an attorney to review the contract, a CPA to manage your bookkeeping, your finances, your taxes. So it's never been easier to become an entrepreneur. It just requires committing to it. And the other thing that I'll go back to is if you're on the job market and you're like anybody that I've talked with that has been out of work for 18 months from their, multiple six-figure salary jobs, their severance or their bonus or their exit package money has run out. They've tapped into their savings for what? To live, right? What if you had a 6-month severance package? What if you could use that 6 months of runway to build your own company? And what if you could tap into your savings, not because you're using it to put food on the table, but because you're using it to invest in your growing business? That's the mindset shift that people need to make is when you run a business, you have to think about money and finances very different. It's got to be a mindset shift. Taking money out to invest in the business is not the same as taking it out to buy a car or go on a vacation. It's an investment in you and your business.
I like that. So I think if I had to sum up this whole conversation today, I would sum it up as it's all about your attitude. It's okay, yes. So yes, maybe there ageism is a thing. AI is disrupting things. You might be a year and a half without a job, if not longer, if ever. But it's all about how you get up, that what matters, and using shift your attitude to say, I want to learn, I have more to offer, I have a lot more to offer, I have value still to offer. No one that can provide value will ever starve, right?
That's
And
right.
also begins with also again, going back to learning and figuring out the art of the possible with AI versus just sitting back and moping.
Yeah, and that does bring up this a good point, and you and I have talked about this as well. But you still need a support network. When you go
Oh,
from
that's a good
40
point.
hours a week where you're working with a team, you're on Zooms, right? You're busy. And a lot of it's busy work that's really not productive. And making the shift, that team goes away. You're all by yourself sitting here. So you need to have your spouse, your family on board because there are going to be hard times and there are going to be moments of stress and anxiety. It's also critical to do what you and I have been doing, which is build a network of like-minded people that might be in your situation and use each other to learn from one another and to support one another because you're all going through a very emotionally challenging time that makes you question everything about what you've done your entire career. And you need that shot in the arm every now and again.
Yeah, agreed, agreed. But I'm proud of us, if anything. I think the fact that we're not just sitting back and doing nothing, and the fact that we've taken upon ourselves to learn something new, and we can bring in the vision, the imagination. I think that's going to be if anything, it's going to be the top skill in the future. It's going to be originality and the ability to see all the puzzle pieces and to fit them together in a novel place, in a novel way. I
Yeah.
think that is probably one of, and that's honestly in a lot of ways you can probably learn that skill, but in a lot of ways it's not something you could easily learn. And when you're able to bring that to the table, that will make you valuable.
You create your own luck, right? Luck just doesn't happen. You have to put yourself out there, right?
Yep.
You might get comfortable on LinkedIn, get out there. You might not want to go to that networking event, do it. You might not want to spend money on going to that conference, do it. Taking those opportunities, I was reached out to and asked to meet with you and your MBA alum, and we've been now talking and friends for 2 weeks, and I didn't know you a month ago. That's because I chose to take a meeting to talk with some folks, share my knowledge, and now here we are helping one another out.
Yeah, beautiful. Agreed. And I hope this message gets across to those who really need it. If you still have struggling with the vision behind AI and how you can apply it, you can reach out to folks like myself at Filmology or to Tony at Performance Labs to kind of help you to bridge the gap of where you can use the right tools to get you across the finish line to meet your goals. And this is where we begin with your business. We begin with your actual objectives, and then see where technology and AI fit in versus the other way around, where we allow AI to just go and mindlessly, aimlessly be applied where it might not actually move the needle forward. And I know from the folks that have been around, that's definitely a message a lot of people want to hear. And Tony, unless you have something else, I think this has been a very informative discussion. I appreciate every minute you've spent with us here today.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And once again, so nice to connect with you. And I too find hope that those watching find the content valuable.
Yeah, thank you.
Take care.
Bye bye.